Hey there, learners! Welcome to our story. In today's episode, we are diving into an enchanting tale that revolves around Tessa and her incredible journey through the mystical forest of time-telling trees. Join us as Tessa embarks on a captivating adventure where she learns to read and understand both analog and digital clocks. It's an exciting lesson in timekeeping that will leave you eager to learn more. So let's jump right into the magical world of Tessa's time-telling trees. Let's get started. Once upon a tick and a tock, in a village shaped like a watch, lived a clever little girl named Tessa. She loved puzzles, stories, and especially clocks. While living in her village inside the clock, she always saw the short and long hands on the big clock tower moving around. She knew that when the short hand pointed to the number 12, it was 12 o'clock. When it pointed to the number 3, it was 3 o'clock, and so on. But she wanted to know more, like what did it mean when the hands were between the numbers? She wished she could ask the old clock tower, but it never made a sound. One day, while winding a toy clock in her room, Tessa thought to herself, "It's 3 o'clock now, and Grandma said snacks at 4. That's one more hour. I wish I could fast forward time." Little did she know, her wish was about to come true. At that moment, her cat, Whiskers, dashed out the window. "Whiskers, come back here," she called. But the curious cat was already scampering up a tree in the forest. "Oh, Whiskers," sighed Tessa. "You know I'm not allowed to go into the forest. It's too wild." But she couldn't resist the urge to peek inside. As she crept into the shadowy woods, she followed Whiskers deeper and deeper. Suddenly, the trees shimmered and glowed before her eyes. Astonished, Tessa rubbed them gently. But then they all began to move. One leaf-covered branch twirled and transformed into a clock face with 2 hands. Then another branch did the same. Soon, every tree was blinking and swirling until they were all covered in glowing clock faces. They seemed to be telling the time, but Tessa couldn't figure out how. She wanted to ask one of the trees, but how? She was afraid of getting pricked by a pointy branch. Just then, a friendly voice echoed through the woods. "To go forward, read my face. Tell the time to leave this place." Startled, Tessa jumped back. Who said that? But the trees were silent, and then she noticed something incredible. The tree she'd first touched had its leaves spinning around. It was showing her the time. Could that be the answer? Tessa took a deep breath and stepped closer to the tree. It was round like an old clock, and the leaves pointed to the numbers. The lower hand was resting on the 2, and the longer hand rested on the 12. "Is it 2 o'clock?" she asked hesitantly. The tree rumbled softly, but didn't move. "Well, if it's not 2 o'clock, then it must be a little bit later than that," Tessa said, thinking hard. "The short hand points to the 2, and the long hand points to the 12. The short hand isn't quite pointing to the 3 yet. Maybe it's a little after 2. Oh yeah, I know what that means. It's a quarter after 2 or 2:15. She beamed proudly. "Correct!" boomed the tree. The branches parted and a path appeared, leading Tessa further into the magical woods. Excited, she followed the path. Soon she came across a tall tree with strange, flat leaves that looked like a digital screen. The one Tessa had touched showed the time in big numbers. It flashed 0430. Confused, she looked at the other trees. They all showed different numbers. But now she knew what they meant. The one that was just past 4 o'clock was now flashing 0430. This tree was telling her it was 4:30. The next tree had leaves that turned around to show the time. This one showed the short hand, pointing to the 9. "So, that's 9 o'clock, she said confidently. But the tree shook its head sadly. "Nope, not quite. Think again." Tessa frowned. She knew the short hand was the hour hand, and it was pointing to the 9. But what if there was more to it? The tree was clearly shaking its head. No, not 9 o'clock, it said. What else could it be? She closed her eyes, thinking hard. Ah, I got it, she exclaimed. I forgot the shorthand shows the hours, and the longhand shows the minutes. So the shorthand points to the 9, and the longhand is pointing to the 6. That makes it 9:45 or 9:55. The tree rustled happily. Right you are. Well done. The branches opened and Tessa walked through them. Now she was really deep in the woods, and she couldn't see the sunlight through the thick tree canopy. The next tree had leaves shaped like an hourglass. It was hard for Tessa to read, but she could make out the time. She said, trying to remember everything she'd learned. The shorthand is pointing to the number 12, and the longhand is pointing to the number 9. That means it's 9 o'clock. Oh, my little friend, said a booming voice. You haven't been listening, have you? Surprised, Tessa jumped. You've only just woken up now. The tree continued. It's no wonder your brain can't do math. Now pay close attention. The shorthand points to the 12. So that's the hour. The longhand points to the 9, which is 3/4 of the way around the clock. So it's 3/4 past 12. In other words, it's 11:30 or 11:30. The branches moved, and the tree revealed a new path. Tessa continued her walk through the woods, and soon she heard a gentle chime. The sound grew louder and louder until she saw the source. A huge tree with golden leaves that was shaped like a pendulum. Above her, gears whirred and clicked. At the base of the tree, Tessa saw another sign. What time is it? It read. Answer correctly, and I'll help you return home. Below the question were 4 boxes with the times 11:15, 12 1 6, and 1:30. So Tessa knew exactly what to do. I already figured out the answer, she said confidently. It's 11:30 because the shorthand is pointing to the 1 and the longhand is pointing to the 6. The tree's leaves swirled and shimmered. Very well, little one. Your journey ends here. The golden door opened and Tessa stepped through. When she opened her eyes, she was back in her own village. In the distance, she could hear the familiar chimes of the big clock tower. And she smiled, knowing that she was finally home. She ran as fast as she could towards her house, and when she arrived, it was just in time for Grandma's famous blueberry pancakes. Later that day, when the clock tower chimed 6 times, Tessa's grandma said, "Just in time, my clever clock explorer. I knew you'd be here right at 6. Tessa laughed. It's my favorite story, but it gets better each time I hear it. Thanks for sharing it with me again. Anytime, my dear, replied her grandmother with a wink. And that's the end of our story. We hope you enjoyed coming along on Tessa's adventure through the magical forest of telling trees. Remember, just like Tessa, every small step in learning is a victory. So keep practicing telling the time, and before you know it, you'll be reading clocks like a pro. Until next time, happy clock exploring.